Well, hello again. So today we are doing 2-7, dividing decimals. So you guys have been doing division for a long time. I don't actually care for long division a whole lot, but with decimals you're kind of forced into it a little bit. But I'm going to try and make it as simple for you as I can. So we're going to start with something kind of on the easier side, and we're going to divide a decimal by a whole number. Okay, so if I have 1.84 divided by 2. And I want to have a couple of terms for you. So the number that you're multiplying into is called the dividend. And the number you're dividing by is called the divisor. This one actually is kind of the important one. So put a little star next to him. If you can remember that you always want the divisor to be a whole number, that will help you with your dividing decimals, okay? So let's go ahead and do 1.84 divided by 2. So whatever comes first here, that's going to go on the inside of the little house that you use for division. So 1.84, and you're going to divide by 2. So just kind of remember that it's kind of the reverse direction of what you see when it's written horizontally like that. This also could be written like this, 1.84 divided by 2. And the more algebra you do, this will be the most common way that you see this. Okay, so the biggest thing you want is to make sure that your divisor out here is a whole number. Once you have that, you don't have to adjust anything inside here if you don't adjust anything on the outside. So then you're going to just bring that decimal straight up. And once you have your decimal in the right spot, you're going to ignore it from that point on. So now you can treat it like you're dividing 184 divided by 2. And the decimal is just going to be there. So can we put 2 into 1? No, we can't do that. So now we move one space over. Can we put 2 into 18? Yes, we can, 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. You don't need to worry about that decimal because we already know where it's going to end up, so we can just ignore it for now. We're going to subtract that. We get 0. Now we bring down the next place, which would be a 4. 2 can go into 4 twice. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract that, and I have a remainder of 0. When you're dealing with decimals, you're not going to ever see remainder up here. You're not going to see that because you're going to keep going until you either round off that decimal, or if it's a terminating decimal, you won't have to do that. So let's try divided by a decimal. Okay, and we're going to do kind of an easy one, but we're going to do 0.48 divided by, sorry, there should be a dot more than a line, divided by 0.03. Okay, so remember that we want to make sure that this is a whole number. So what you have to do is you have to move that decimal place out until you get it out to the end. So in this case, I need to move it 2 spaces to the right. And I would say typically you're taught to move it in here after you've written your division, actual long division problem, but I think it's actually easier to move it up here. And what you need to remember is move the decimal the same number of spaces for both numbers. Okay? So if I move it out 2 spaces here to make it a 3, then I need to move it out 2 spaces here, and that would make it a 48. So now what you really have is 48 divided by 3. Well, look at that. Now I don't even really have any decimals going on. They're at the end, but they're not something I really need to worry about. Okay? So now the first number you see goes on the inside, and the divisor goes on the outside. This is a whole number. I'm good to go. I know my decimal is here at the end, so I'm just going to put it up there because that's 48, so I know it's 48 point nothing. And then I can just go ahead and divide. So that's going to be really easy now. Okay. So 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract it. It's 1. Bring down your 8. You have an 18. 3 goes into 18 6 times, and that is also 18, so you have a remainder of 0. So your answer is 16. Easy, right? Good. So let's do 10.75 divided by 0.2. Okay? So like I said, I think it's easier if we just move these decimals first. So how many, and remember the divisor is the one you need to worry about. This is the one that directs all the traffic and what's going on. Okay? So we're going to move that decimal out one place, and I want you to think about what that did. That multiplied 0.2 by 10, because every space we move to the right, you're multiplying that amount, that number by 10. So I have to do the same thing on this side, and I have to multiply by 10. And the easy way to do that is just slide that to the right, which should make sense to you. So instead of 10.75, we multiply that by 10, we have 107.5. Divided by, we move this out to be a 2.2 times 10 would give us 2. Right, if you have 20 cents, back here it would be 20 cents, and I do that 10 times, I would end up with $2. Well, now look what you have when you set up your division. You have 107.5 divided by 2. I know that in the past you've probably been taught to move the decimal right in here, but I think it's easier to move it there. Then you don't have to hassle with it down here. And once you have your decimal where it needs to be, put it right up there and forget about it. Just forget about it, okay? Go ahead and divide. So 2 can't go into 1, but it can go into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract that, that's nothing. I'm going to bring that 7 down. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to subtract that. I'm going to scoochie everything up. 7 minus 6 is 1. I have to bring that 5 all the way down. 2 goes into 15, not evenly, but it goes in 7 times. And that would be 14, and I have a 1. Well, now what do I do? Because I don't have any more numbers out here. But what number do you know you can keep adding to the right of a decimal forever and ever and ever, as many times as you need to? Of course, you can add a 0. So then we're going to bring that 0 down. Don't you love that I can just make it smaller and farther I need to go? And so we have 10, and then 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 5 times 2 is 10, and I have a remainder of 0. And of course you can check your work. Remember, anything in math you can check your work by doing the opposite. So if 107 divided by 2 gave us 53.75, then 53.75 times 2 should give us the 107.5. So let's multiply that out really quick because we can and we should. So 53.75 times 2 should give us 10, 15. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and 2 times 5 is 10. Then I just have to look at how many digits were to the right of the decimal. I only had 2, so I'm going to come back in 2. And that's what I started with. And we're good to go. There you go, dividing decimals.